Gathering should be arriving soon, right? Aura asked, wiping sweat from her face with a wet towel. Her battle with the primal fire elemental had resulted in her victory. The elemental, with its extraordinary destructive power and durability, was nothing more than a giant target for Aura, who completely nullified its flame damage just by being near it and displayed a masterful show of evasion. A single hit from the elemental would have drained a considerable amount of Aura's health, but her use of multiple defensive spells worked perfectly. Even from Momonga's perspective as a magic caster, it was an outstanding display of skill. Indeed, Momonga said, glancing down at the band on his left arm. The appointed time hadn't arrived yet, but he doubted any of the guardians would be late. At this point, they could show up at any moment. Aura sighed with a phew, as if she had just taken a moment to rest, and began wiping the sweat from her throat. Droplets of sweat formed as soon as she wiped them away, trickling down her dark skin. Momonga silently opened his item box. The first thing he took out was a magical item, the pitcher of endless water. The transparent, glass-like pitcher was filled to the brim with fresh water, and countless beads of condensation had formed on the outside, a testament to its icy coldness. Next, he took out a single glass. He poured the fresh water into the glass, which was no less exquisite than a baccarat. Aura, drink up. Huh? Oh, no, I couldn't, Lord Momonga. It's too much. Momonga uttered a wry smile at Aura, who was flapping her hands in front of her face. Don't worry about it. Consider it a small token of my appreciation for your hard work. Ah. Aura's cheeks turned red with embarrassment as he offered her the glass. Thank you, Lord Momonga. This time, she didn't refuse. She draped the towel over her shoulder, took the glass with both hands, and drank it all in one gulp. Her throat moved as she swallowed, and a droplet of water that escaped the corner of her lips trickled down her glossy throat and vanished into her chest. Ah, that was good. Want another? Yes, please. The glass, which had been empty just a moment ago, was once again filled from the pitcher. The water in the pitcher hadn't gone down. It maintained the same level as before. Calmed down, Aura now drank the water slowly. As Momonga watched her, he placed a hand on his own throat. The sensation was like having thin skin stretched over his cervical vertebrae. He hadn't felt thirst since becoming this body, nor had he felt the need to sleep. He knew that undead don't experience such things, but the realization that he was no longer human still felt like a joke. Momonga ran his empty hand over his body. His sense of touch was duller compared to when he was human. It felt like there was a thin layer of cloth in the way. On the other hand, his other senses were superior. His sight and hearing were incredibly sharp. This body, constructed of bone and seemingly ready to break at a moment's notice, felt as hard as steel. Although it was so different from a human body, he felt a sense of contentment and fulfillment, as if he had been born this way. Perhaps that's why he felt no fear. Phew! Another? I'm satisfied now. Momonga nodded at Aura's smile, took the glass and the pitcher, and put them back into the item box. I thought Lord Momonga would be a lot scarier. Oh, if you prefer, I can act that way. Huh? No, this is way better, definitely. Then I'll stay as I am, Momonga replied, his eyes wide at her enthusiastic response. However, for Momonga, his current persona was nothing but an act. He was merely playing the role of the guildmaster of Ain's Old Gown, the highest-ranking guild, to avoid embarrassing himself. Could it be you're only nice to me? Momonga murmured. Unsure of how to respond, Momonga gently patted Aura's head a few times. Hee. Aura exuded the aura of a puppy in front of its favorite treat. At that moment, a voice, young and fresh as a sweet fish, despite its formal manner of speech, announced, "Oh, am I the first one here?" A shadow swelled and erupted. From the expanding shadow, a figure slowly emerged. She was clad in a soft-looking, jet-black ball gown. The skirt was puffed up with considerable volume, and its length completely covered her feet. A frilly, ribbon-adorned bolero cardigan covered her chest and shoulders, and fingerless gloves concealed most of her body. The only part of her that was exposed was her perfect face, a work of art that would make any masterpiece blush. Her skin was white, not a healthy white, but a waxy pale shade. She wore her long silver hair in a ponytail, lifted and draped to one side. She looked about 14, or perhaps even younger. Her childhood had not completely faded, and she was a crystallization of beauty, a mix of cuteness and elegance. Her chest, however, was somewhat disproportionately large for her age. "You didn't have to use gait, interdimensional gait." A voice filled with an icy emotion spoke from right beside Momonga. The puppy-like atmosphere was gone, replaced by a fierce hostility that was overflowing and on the verge of spilling over. The woman, who had appeared on the scene using a top-tier teleportation spell, paid no heed to the murderous aura. Instead, she twisted her body and stood in front of Momonga. A sweet scent of perfume wafted from her body. "Stinks," Aura muttered under her breath, adding that it wasn't because the woman was undead, it was a different kind of rot. Even though she must have heard Aura's words, the woman's ruby-red eyes held a look of amusement. "Ah, my dear lord, the only one I cannot control, my love." She reached out with her slender hands and draped them around Momonga's neck, as if to hug him. Her bright red lips parted, revealing her wet tongue. It moved over her lips as if it were a separate creature. A fragrant scent escaped from her open mouth. If this had been an enchanting beauty, it would have suited her perfectly. However, she was a little too young for such an act, which gave it a rather endearing, clumsy charm. Also, she was too short, so it looked more like she was trying to hang from his neck rather than embrace him. Still, for Momonga, who was not used to women, it was more than enough to be alluring. He was about to take a step back, but decided to stand his ground. He couldn't shake the thought, was she always like this? This was Shaltir Bloodfallen, the guardian of the 1st through 3rd floors of the Great Tomb of Nazarick, and the ruler of all undead, a true vampire. "That's enough," a deep, heavy voice said. For the first time, Shaltir reacted, turning to Aura with a scornful smirk. "Oh, were you there, little shorty? I couldn't see you. You weren't in my field of vision." Aura's face twitched. "Shut up, fake boobs." She dropped a bombshell. Ah, her character broke. "It's obvious, isn't it? You've got some weird padding. How many layers do you have on?" "Wah-ha-ha! Wah-ha!" Shaltair flailed her arms as if to block out Aura's words. Her expression was that of a girl her age. "You've got nothing, though. I have a little, a lot." At that moment, Aura's grin turned evil, and Shaltair took a step back, subtly guarding her chest. I'm only 76. I still have time to grow. But it must be tough for you undead. You don't get to grow." Shaltair groaned and retreated farther, unable to retort. It was clear on her face. Seeing this, Aura's smile deepened into a malicious slit. "You should be content with what you have. Puff. Why, you little wench, you'd better take that back." Momonga could almost hear a snap. A black miasma-like substance began to ooze from Shaltair's gloved hands. Aura, in turn, grabbed the whip she had used earlier, ready to meet her. Momonga, exasperated, took a breath to stop them both when... Silence! A distorted, hard voice, like a non-human trying to speak, cut through their argument. Where the voice came from, there stood an otherworldly being, radiating cold. He stood about 2.5 meters tall, resembling a bipedal insect. If a demon had combined a twisted mantis and an ant, it might look like this. His tail, more than twice his height, had countless sharp spikes jutting from it. His powerful mandibles could easily sever a human arm. He held a silver halberd in 2 of his arms, and a blackish aura-emitting mace and a broadsword in the others. A cold mist clung to his shining, hardened silver exoskeleton, creating a shimmer of countless diamond dust-like particles. This was Cocytus, the guardian of the 5th floor of the Great Tomb of Nazarick and the ruler of the Frozen River. When he slammed his halberd's blade into the ground, the surrounding area slowly began to freeze. "You are being too playful in the presence of our master." "That little girl was disrespectful to me." That's the truth. Shaltair and Aura again glared at each other with intense hostility. Shaltair, Aura, do not disappoint me. Their bodies jumped, and they both bowed their heads at the same time. We apologize. Good, Momonga replied with a magnanimous nod, then turned to the demon who had just arrived. Welcome, Cocytus. At your beck and call, my lord. A white mist escaped from Cocytus's mouth. In response, a crackling sound of freezing air could be heard. The cold was equal to, or perhaps even greater than the heat of the primal fire elemental. Being near him would cause various symptoms, from the low temperature, even physical damage. However, Momonga felt nothing. In fact, no one here was without a resistance to or a countermeasure against attacks like fire, ice, or acid. Has it been boring without any intruders lately? Indeed, Cocytus said, his mandibles clacking. Was he laughing? Minus. However, there are still duties to be done, so I have not been too bored. Oh, what do you usually do? I spend my days in training so that I may be of service to you at any given moment. Despite his appearance, Cocytus's character was that of a warrior. His personality and concept design were both based on this. Among all the weapon wielders in the Great Tomb of Nazarick, he was #1 in combat ability. Oh, you train for my sake? I appreciate your effort. Oh, your words alone are reward enough. Oh, it appears Demiurge has arrived. Following Cocytus's gaze, Momonga saw a single figure walking from the entrance of the arena. When he was close enough, the figure bowed elegantly and then spoke. My apologies for the wait, everyone. He stood about 2 meters tall, with glossy red skin. His neatly trimmed black hair had a wet sheen. His red eyes shone with intelligence, a glint that suggested countless wicked schemes were being concocted in his mind. Sharp, goat-like horns extended from his temples to the top of his head, and a pair of massive black wings on his back showed he was not human. He held a single royal scepter in a hand with pointed, sharp claws. His slender body was clad in a luxurious crimson robe, giving him the imposing presence of a king. This demon, who exuded a shimmering, sooty flame, was Demiurge, the guardian of the 7th floor of the Great Tomb of Nazarick and the NPC commander for its defense. Now everyone is here. Lord Momonga, it seems Gargantua hasn't arrived yet. Demiurge's voice was deep and resonant, with a quality that seemed to slide into one's very heart. He possessed a constant passive ability called Dominating Command, which instantly turned the weak-hearted into his puppets. However, this ability had no effect on anyone present. It was effective on those at level 40 and below, so it was only natural that it wouldn't work on the highest-level guardians. To those present, his voice was nothing more than pleasant to the ear. You know about Gargantua? Of course, the guardian of the 4th floor, Gargantua, the strategic class siege golem. None of us here are unaware of him. Gargantua was a golem that existed within the rules of the game Yggdrasil and wasn't something that Ain's old gown had created from scratch. It was something used for siege warfare and couldn't be used to protect the home base. However, it was designated as the 4th floor guardian in its text tag, and since they had no other place for it, they had sunk it in the underground lake on the 4th floor. It's not really a golem, it's just a golem that was given the status of a guardian. I see, my apologies. It seems my sworn ally has also not arrived. Everyone except Cocytus froze. He is merely a part of the defense of my floor, Shaltair stammered. Yeah, that's right. Ara agreed, her smile tight. You mean the Dreadlord? He is not a guardian, but I suppose it's best you know about him. Cocytus, you tell him about it. Understood, my lord. And now, my master, all the guardians have gathered. Please give us your orders. At Demiurge's words, everyone knelt at once. First, I am pleased that you have all gathered. We are all those who have dedicated everything to Lord Momonga. It is only natural. Demiurge replied on behalf of the others. The other guardians showed no sign of wanting to interject. It seemed Demiurge was completely regarded as the guardian representative. I am happy to see your loyalty. I could talk about how pleased I am, but unfortunately, I have gathered all the guardians for a different matter. I don't fully understand the situation myself, so some of this might not make sense, but I want you to listen carefully. Momonga took a breath, looked down at the band on his right arm, and then swept his gaze over everyone. It seems that the entire Great Tomb of Nazarick is caught up in some strange phenomenon. What sort of strange phenomenon? I honestly don't know, but I felt some kind of change. That's why I gathered all of you. Do you feel anything? They all looked at each other, and then Demiurge spoke. No, my apologies, but we did not sense anything. Is that so? What kind of feeling did you get? It's a bit difficult to explain. Momonga closed his mouth, trying to let the subject drop, but he noticed the guardians waiting for an explanation, so he fabricated a story. A ripple. A ripple, you say? The guardians looked at each other again, and then Demiurge spoke. It seems we still could not sense it. Could it be a magical phenomenon? Everything is unclear. Are there any abnormalities on each of your floors? There are no abnormalities on the 7th floor. The same for the 6th floor. The 5th floor as well. There are no abnormalities on the 1st through 3rd floors. Lord Momonga, I would like to begin an immediate investigation of the 4th floor. I'll leave it to you. Then I will handle the surface area. Wait, I thought he would return by now. I currently have Sabas investigating the area around the surface. The atmosphere stirred. One reason for the commotion was confusion that a being who was the strongest in head-on combat and who even Cocytus couldn't keep up with had been sent on a simple reconnoiterance mission. The other was a sense of alarm at Momonga's heightened vigilance regarding this phenomenon, as indicated by his choice of Sabas from the countless available options. However, from Momonga's perspective, there were no other options. First, Sabas had seemed to be loyal in this vastly changed world. Second, in a situation where they had no information, it was only natural to send out someone with the highest combat ability, someone who was likely to return alive. And third, Sabas looked very much like a human, so Momonga predicted that even if he was treated with caution, it wouldn't immediately result in combat. Sending Demiurge or Cocytus would have had a low chance of success. He had considered using an illusion spell to disguise them, but if the deception was discovered, he didn't think the other party would be friendly towards someone who had approached them with a lie. Besides, at that time, he was unsure if magic would even work. For these reasons, he felt Sabas was the most suitable choice. I think he should be returning soon. As if that was a signal, he casually glanced toward the arena entrance and saw Sabas walking toward them. To return exactly when he was needed, even without being given a specific time, was a testament to his status as a first-rate butler. I apologize for my lateness. No, it's fine. More importantly, can you tell us about the surrounding area? Sabas sent a brief glance to the kneeling guardians. Momonga nodded magnanimously. This is an emergency. This information is something that all the guardians of each floor should know. Understood. First, the area within a 1-kilometer radius is a grassland. The area around the Great Tomb of Nazarick had been a swamp that even gave off poison. The faces of the guardians showed they wanted to ask if this was a joke, but no one did. They were all convinced that Sabas would never lie to his master. I saw a few small animals that I predict live there, but I did not find any humanoid beings. Are the small animals monsters? No, they were creatures with almost no combat ability, like prairie dogs. Can you describe it as a peaceful, idyllic scene? Idyllic? It is simply a grassland. There is nothing particularly special about it. I see. Thank you for your hard work. He had no idea where they had been transferred to, but it was a good idea to increase their level of caution. Anyone would be angry if someone trespassed on their property without permission. However, if a conflict were to arise, it would definitely create a deep-seated enmity. He wanted to avoid a situation like that while their forces were still unclear. Sheltier. Yes. Increase the security on each floor. However, capture any intruders without killing them. Ideally, without injuring them at all. Also, if any intruders arrive, notify the guardians of each floor. And, in conjunction with this, turn off the negative damage of each floor.
Understood. Demiurge.
Yes. Select a few scouts who are suitable to thoroughly investigate the surroundings. The purpose is to gather information, not to engage in combat. Choose those with the intelligence to fully understand this. You are not to act directly yourself for now. Am I to understand the reason for not moving me is to avoid worsening the feelings of an unspecified number of potential negotiation partners? In other words, forced information gathering is strictly forbidden. That's right. We are certainly the strongest. But what if the surrounding area is fundamentally inhabited by beings 100 times stronger than us? Would you still proceed based on your own common sense that such a thing is impossible? No, you are right, Lord Momonga. I will exercise the utmost caution and prepare trustworthy scouts. Aura. Yes. Build a house that humans could live in on the 6th floor. What do you mean? He means to house the captives there. Just as Cocytus said, I don't want them in the 9th floor, and it would be difficult for them to be in the other floors for various reasons. The 6th floor is the most suitable. I see. Aura nodded, recalling the other floors. It's like a holding facility for prisoners. Make sure you build it in a place where they can be monitored. Understood. Also, treat them as guests for the time being. Don't build a shack. Yes, I will build a respectable-looking house. How many people should it be able to accommodate? Let's see. 10 people should be fine. Cocytus. Yes. Have your most trusted and elite servants descend to the 9th floor to guard it. You can consult with Sabas about where and how to station them. Yes, leave it to me. Sabas, have the maids guard the 10th floor. We don't know what kind of means our opponents might use to infiltrate at once. Be cautious with the security of each floor. And also, consult with Cocytus about his servants. Yes, understood. I permit the guardians and their associated servants, up to 10 from each floor, to enter the 10th floor. If anything happens, come tell me. And finally, I plan to change my name. The air stirred. The name Momonga was the name of the guildmaster of Ainz Ulgan, a person who acts only on his own will, despite being the leader of a guild that emphasized majority rule, was not a suitable guildmaster. So, he would abandon his name. I will tell you my new name later. Now, everyone, begin your actions immediately. At Momonga's command, the guardians rose and began to move at once. Their movements were filled with power, and they exuded a dignity that no one could stop. Watching this scene, Momonga was overcome with emotion. Was it because they were obeying his orders? No. Was it because they were strong? No. Were they beautiful? No. It was because the NPCs created by his comrades from Ainz Ulgan were so wonderful. The golden brilliance he had known was still here. He was filled with joy to see the culmination of all their opinions and feelings was standing right here.